In a room full of wolves, the most dangerous creature isn't the one baring its teeth. It's the one standing perfectly still. When three armed men stormed the exclusive Onyx Lounge on the 42nd floor of Chicago's Meridian Tower, the world stopped breathing. Billionaires dove under tables worth more than houses. Politicians screamed for security that was already dead. Bodyguards, men trained by the Secret Service and Mossad, fumbled for weapons with hands that suddenly remembered they were mortal. But one security camera, the one mounted above the bar at a 45-degree angle that captured everything, caught something that would baffle the FBI's behavioral analysis unit for weeks and send a chill through the city's underworld that no amount of violence ever could. In the middle of the chaos, as crystal shattered and gunfire echoed off marble walls, a 24-year-old waitress named Leo Vance didn't flinch. She didn't drop the tray of 30-year-old scotch she was carrying. She didn't scream or cry or beg for her life like the senator's wife currently sobbing into Italian leather upholstery. She checked her watch, not in the way someone checks the time because they're bored or waiting for a shift to end, not with the trembling hands of someone dissociating from trauma, but with the cold, clinical precision of someone calculating breath patterns, adrenaline spikes, and the exact moment when three armed men would be most vulnerable to disarmament. The FBI would call it shock. The police would label it a dissociative episode. The media would run headlines about the Ice Queen waitress, who became a viral sensation for her unnatural calm. But Julian Moretti, the 32-year-old underboss who controlled half of Chicago's criminal empire from a corner booth with perfect tactical sightlines, knew exactly what he was looking at. He'd seen that kind of stillness before, in the eyes of Mossad assassins and Spetsnaz operators, who'd forgotten how to register fear because they'd become the thing others should fear. This wasn't a waitress. This was a predator in camouflage. And she'd just made the fatal mistake of revealing herself in a room where Julian Moretti noticed everything. One robbery, one watch check, one woman who moved through chaos like she was simply waiting for the optimal moment to end it. The Mafia would never see her coming. But Julian Moretti was already looking. And when you're the kind of man who survives by identifying threats before they materialize, finding a weapon disguised as service staff isn't a problem. It's an opportunity. This is the story of how a government-trained operator hiding in plain sight as a waitress became the most dangerous piece on Chicago's criminal chessboard. And how the man who discovered her secret realized too late that some people aren't scared of guns because they've already survived being one. Leo Vance checked her watch while three men pointed rifles at the elite of Chicago. She wasn't counting down to safety. She was counting down to the moment she'd decide whether they deserved to live. That decision, that single moment of restraint, would save one man's life and doom an empire. Chapter 1. The Onyx Lounge was the kind of place where the air smelled of old money, Cuban cigars, and secrets worth killing for. Located on the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower, it offered a view of Chicago's skyline that only the 1% could afford, and the kind of privacy that made it worth the $1,000 membership fee just to walk through the door. Julian Moretti sat in his usual booth, table 9, the corner position with tactical advantage over every entrance and exit. He was 32. Wearing a bespoke Brioni suit that cost more than most people's cars, his ice-blue eyes scanning the room with the predatory awareness of someone who'd survived 3 assassination attempts before his 25th birthday. He was the underboss of the Moretti crime family, known to the press as a real estate developer, known on the streets as the architect. He didn't break legs, he dismantled lives with surgical precision. Tonight he was bored, swirling amber liquid in his glass, watching his Lieutenant Marcus flirt with the hostess near the entrance, watching the senator in the corner sweat through his shirt while arguing with his mistress. And then he watched the waitress. He didn't know her name yet. She was new, dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, uniform 2 sizes too big, attempting to hide an athletic frame that moved with economic efficiency. No wasted energy. She was pouring 1982 Chateau Margaux for a table of investment bankers when the elevator doors chimed. It wasn't a soft chime. It was a warning. 3 men burst out, ski masks, Kevlar vests, modified AR-15s. Everybody down now or we paint the walls. The lead gunman screamed, firing a burst into the ceiling. The sound was deafening. The crystal chandelier shattered, raining glass onto screaming patrons. The chaos was instantaneous. The senator dove under his table, knocking over candles. Investment bankers scrambled over each other like rats, abandoning a sinking ship. Even Marcus, Julian's seasoned lieutenant, flinched, hand fumbling for the Glock concealed in his jacket. Julian didn't move. He kept his hand on his glass, eyes narrowing, assessing threats, counting exits, calculating odds. 3 shooters, automatic weapons, professional formation. This wasn't random. This was tactical. But then movement in his peripheral vision caught his attention. The waitress, She hadn't dropped the wine bottle, hadn't screamed, hadn't even set down the tray. She stood perfectly still in the center of the room, surrounded by chaos, and checked her watch. Not in fear, not in shock, with the cold precision of someone timing something. Julian's breath caught. He knew that kind of stillness, had seen it in the eyes of Israeli special forces, Russian Spetsnaz, the kind of operators who'd forgotten how to register fear, because they'd become what others should fear. The lead gunman was shouting demands, wallets, phones, jewelry, but Julian wasn't listening. He was watching the waitress. She'd shifted her weight slightly, almost imperceptibly, into a stance that wasn't casual. It was balanced, ready. Her eyes tracked the gunman with the focus of someone calculating trajectories and threat assessment. She was counting their breaths, timing their adrenaline spikes, identifying the optimal moment to disarm them. And then, just as suddenly, she relaxed, made the decision not to engage. She set down the tray with steady hands, raised them slowly, and moved to kneel with the other staff members. But Julian had seen it. That microsecond of calculation where she'd assessed whether these men were a threat she needed to neutralize. The robbery lasted 4 minutes. The vultures took watches, wallets and phones, then disappeared into the service elevator as sirens wailed in the distance. Professional. Clean. Gone before SWPD could respond. The room erupted into panicked conversation. Marcus was on his phone coordinating damage control. The senator was demanding his security team be fired. But Julian sat motionless, staring at the waitress who was now calmly collecting broken glass with hands that didn't shake. Marcus, Julian said quietly, not taking his eyes off her. Yeah, boss. Find out everything about the new waitress. Everything. Where she came from, where she lives, who she really is. Julian's voice was soft, dangerous. And pull the security footage. I want every angle of her during the robbery. Marcus followed his boss's gaze. The brunette. Why? You think she's involved? No, Julian said, finally looking away to meet Marcus's eyes. I think she's something much more interesting. I think she's the most dangerous person who was in this room tonight. And I need to know why a woman who moves like a trained operator is serving my whiskey. He stood, straightened his tie, and walked toward the exit. Behind him, Leo Vance continued cleaning broken glass, her face expressionless, her movements efficient. She didn't look up as Julian passed, didn't acknowledge his attention. But Julian knew predators when he saw them. And he'd just found one hiding in the last place anyone would look, in plain sight, wearing a uniform, serving drinks to wolves while being the apex predator among them. The obsession had begun. And Julian Moretti, who'd built an empire on identifying threats before they materialized, had just made the decision that would either save his life or end it. He was going to find out who Leo Vance really was, even if it killed him. Chapter 2. Julian watched the security footage for the 7th time. Alone in his penthouse office, at 3 in the morning. The room was dark, except for the glow of 3 monitors displaying synchronized camera angles from the Onyx Lounge. He'd sent Marcus and his security team home 2 hours ago. This required focus they couldn't provide. The kind of obsessive attention to detail that had kept Julian alive in a world where most underbosses didn't see 30. He rewound to 9:47 p.m., the moment the elevator doors opened. Frame by frame, he watched the chaos unfold. Senator Brightwell's face contorting in terror. Investment banker Thomas Chen tripping over his own feet. Marcus, his supposedly unflappable lieutenant, reaching for his weapon a full 2 seconds too slow. But Leo Vance. Julian leaned forward, fingers flying across the keyboard to isolate camera 3, the angle that captured her profile. She was pouring wine when the doors opened. The bottle was tilted at exactly 45 degrees, the proper angle for aerating a 1982 Margaux. Professional, practiced. Then the gunfire. The chandelier exploding. Glass raining down. Leo's hand didn't shake. The bottle didn't slip. She completed the pour. Actually completed it. Before setting it down with the same careful precision someone might use defusing a bomb. No sudden movements. No startle reflex. Her pupils didn't even dilate. Julian isolated the next 3 seconds. Leo turned her head, not frantically scanning like the others, but in a deliberate sweep pattern. Left to right. Cataloging. The lead gunman at 12 o'clock. Second shooter covering the bar at 9 o'clock. Third positioned by the emergency exit at 3 o'clock. Classic triangle formation for controlling a room. And Leo saw all of it, in under 2 seconds. Then came the moment that had kept Julian awake. The watch check. He zoomed in, frame by frame. Her right hand moved to her left wrist, pressed the button to illuminate the dial. But her eyes. Julian enhanced the image. Her eyes weren't looking at the time. They were tracking the lead gunman's chest, rising and falling. She was counting his breaths. Jesus Christ, Julian muttered. He advanced the footage. 23 seconds into the robbery, something shifted in Leo's posture. It was so subtle that Julian had missed it the first 6 times. Her weight transferred from both feet to her left, her right foot sliding back 3 inches. Her shoulders dropped half an inch, hands coming to a neutral position at her sides. Julian had seen that stance before, Krav Maga. The ready position, before engaging multiple opponents. She was preparing to move. He watched her eyes. They flicked to the lead gunman's weapon, checking the safety, the magazine, the firing grip. Then to the second shooter, finger inside the trigger guard. Amateur mistake. Weapon could be stripped in under a second. Then to the third, older, steadier, the real threat. For 5 seconds, Julian counted them. Leo Vance calculated how to kill 3 armed men in a room full of civilians. And then she chose not to. Her stance relaxed. Weight distributed evenly again. Hands rose slowly in surrender. She knelt with the other staff members, face blank, body language reading as compliant. But Julian had seen the truth. She'd run the scenario, found it viable, and decided the collateral damage wasn't acceptable. That wasn't fear. That was tactical discipline. Julian opened a new window, pulled up Leo's employment file. Leona Vance, age 24, social security number checked out. References from 2 previous restaurants, both confirmed. Address listed as a studio apartment in Greektown. No criminal record, no red flags. Too clean. Way too clean. He called the number at the bottom of his contact list. It rang 4 times before a gravelly voice answered. Do you know what time it is, Moretti? I need a deep background check, Sergey. Fingerprints, military databases, federal watch lists. Everything. On who? Julian sent the employment file. Leona Vance, 24. Waitress. And Sergey. Prioritize military records. Special operations units, specifically. Silence on the other end. Then, you think a waitress is special forces? I think a waitress timed the breathing patterns of 3 armed gunmen during a robbery to calculate optimal disarm windows and chose not to engage. So yes, I think she's special forces. Or was. I'll have something by morning. Julian hung up and returned to the footage. He watched Leo clean up broken glass after the vultures left. Watched her comfort, a crying hostess. Watched her move through the room with the same efficient, economical grace. Never wasted motion. Never unnecessary energy. Like someone who'd been trained to conserve strength for when it mattered. For when violence became necessary, instead of optional. His phone buzzed at 6:47 a.m. Sergey's text was brief. Call me, now. Julian dialed. Sergey answered immediately, and his voice had changed from annoyed to careful. Where did you find her? She applied for a job 3 months ago. Why? Because Leona Vance doesn't exist before 2019. The social security number is real, but it was issued to a different person who died in 2018. The references check out, but they're too perfect. Scripted responses, rehearsed details. This is a legend, Julian. A cover identity. Julian's pulse quickened. Military? I ran her fingerprints through my Pentagon contact. They came back flagged, which means they're in a classified database I can't access. But I have a friend who owes me. He said one word before he hung up. Sandstorm. What's Sandstorm? I don't know. It's above my clearance level. But whatever it is, it's Black Ops level classified. The kind of operation that doesn't exist on paper. Sergey paused. Julian, whoever this woman is, she's not a waitress. She's a ghost. And if she's hiding in your restaurant, she's either running from something or waiting to kill someone. Maybe you. Julian looked at the frozen frame on his monitor. Leo Vance, face expressionless, kneeling among broken glass, the most dangerous person in a room full of wolves. Find her address, Julian said. The real one. I'm gonna ask her myself. That's a terrible idea. Probably, Julian agreed. But I didn't build this empire by avoiding interesting problems. I built it by understanding them, before they could destroy me. He ended the call and stared at the screen. Leo Vance, or whatever her real name was, had survived something so classified, even his best intelligence sources couldn't access it. And now she was serving drinks in his restaurant, hiding in plain sight. Julian Moretti had spent his life identifying threats, and he had just found the most fascinating one of his career. The hunt had begun. Chapter 3. Leo's apartment was in Greektown, tucked between a halal butcher shop and a laundromat that never seemed to close. The building was the kind of place where rent was paid in cash, and landlords didn't ask questions. Julian's Mercedes looked obscene, parked on the crumbling street, drawing stares from the homeless men warming their hands over a barrel fire on the corner. Boss, this is a bad idea, Marcus said from the driver's seat, hand resting on the Glock under his jacket. Let me go up first. Clear the apartment. No. Julian opened the door. I go alone. If she's what I think she is, bringing muscle will just escalate things. Wait here. If I'm not back in 15 minutes, leave without me. Leave without you. Julian, that's an order. Julian stepped out into the October cold, his breath misting in the streetlight. He'd left his weapon in the car intentionally. This wasn't an interrogation. It was a conversation. At least, that's what he told himself as he climbed 4 flights of stairs in a building that smelled of mildew and fried food. Apartment 4B. The door was reinforced steel disguised as cheap wood. Julian noticed immediately. The frame had been replaced with something that could withstand a battering ram. The peephole was positioned at an angle that gave a wider field of view than standard installation. And there, nearly invisible unless you were looking for it, a fiber optic camera mounted in the doorframe's corner. She knew he was here, had probably known the moment he entered the building. Julian knocked 3 times, measured. It's open, a voice called from inside. Female. Calm. Too calm. Every instinct screamed at Julian to leave. This was a trap. But he'd built an empire by trusting his ability to read dangerous situations, and his curiosity had become bigger than his survival instinct. He turned the handle and pushed the door open. The apartment was small, studio layout with a kitchenette and a single window overlooking the fire escape. Sparse furniture positioned with clear sightlines to both the door and window. No personal items, no photographs, nothing that couldn't be abandoned in under 60 seconds. Leo Vance stood by the sink, drying a coffee mug, wearing jeans and a black tank top that revealed arms with muscle definition that didn't come from carrying trays. She didn't look at him, just kept drying the mug with methodical attention. You made a mistake coming here, she said quietly. Julian stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. I wanted to talk. No. Leo set down the mug. You wanted to see if I'm a threat. You reviewed the security footage. You ran my fingerprints. You called your intelligence contacts, and now you know my identity is fake. She finally looked at him, and her eyes were colder than anything Julian had ever seen. So let me save you some time. Yes, I'm a threat. Yes, I'm trained. And yes, if you try to leverage that information, you'll be dead before you can finish the sentence. I came alone, Julian said, keeping his hands visible. No weapons. No backup. Just me. You're lying. There's a car parked outside with your driver, Marcus Vane, former Marine, dishonorable discharge for black market weapon sales. He's carrying a Glock 19 with extended magazine, ankle holster backup. You have a Sig Sauer in your car's glove compartment. Leo took a step forward. So let's try this again. Who sent you? No one. Leo moved. It happened so fast, Julian's brain couldn't process the sequence. One moment she was 3 feet away. The next, she'd closed the distance, swept his legs, and had him pinned against the wall with a kitchen knife pressed against his carotid artery. The blade was so sharp he felt a bead of blood slide down his neck. Who sent you? She repeated, her voice still eerily calm. Her knee was against his chest, body positioned to prevent any leverage or countermoves. This was someone who'd done this hundreds of times. No one, Julian gasped, hands raised. I swear, I came because I needed to know who you are. What you are. During the robbery, you timed their breathing patterns. You calculated disarm windows. You're not a waitress. And you're not just a real estate developer. Leo's eyes searched his face, looking for deception. Why does it matter? I didn't intervene. I let them rob you. I'm not a threat to you. You're the most dangerous person I've ever met, Julian said, and realized he meant it. And I need to know if you're here to kill me, or if you're running from something worse. The knife didn't move, but something shifted in Leo's expression. Recognition, maybe, or calculation. What's Operation Sandstorm? Julian asked quietly. That's what came up when my contact ran your prints through Pentagon databases. Leo's grip tightened, then suddenly she released him, stepping back with the knife still in hand. She was breathing hard now, the first crack in her composure. You need to leave, right now. Forget my name. Forget you ever saw me. Pretend I'm exactly what I appear to be. I can't do that. Julian rubbed his throat, feeling the thin line where she'd drawn blood. Because someone is going to keep digging. Maybe not me, but someone. And if I found you this easily, others will too. Then I'll disappear, Leo said flatly. I've done it before. Julian's eyes swept the apartment. Military-grade locks on a studio that rented for $600 a month, furniture positioned for tactical advantage, a bed that looked like it had never been slept in. The window was rigged with motion sensors. The bathroom door had a reinforced frame. You're not just hiding, Julian said slowly. You're fortified. This isn't a safe house. This is a fighting position, which means you're not running anymore. You're waiting. Get out. Leo's voice had lost its calm. Now there was something underneath. Fear, maybe, or the kind of exhaustion that comes from years of hypervigilance. Julian moved toward the door, hands still raised, but stopped at the threshold. If someone comes for you, and they will, I can help. Protection, resources. A way out of whatever you're trapped in. I don't need help from a mobster, Leo said. I need to stay invisible. And you just made that impossible. Then let me make it possible again, Julian countered. You have skills I need. I have resources you need. Mutual benefit. I'm not for hire. I'm not offering employment. Julian met her eyes. I'm offering an alliance. Because whatever you survived, whatever made you become a ghost, it's coming back. The robbery wasn't random. It was a test. And someone is going to review that same footage I did, and realize what you are. Leo's expression didn't change, but Julian saw her grip tighten on the knife. How do you know the robbery was a test? Because I've been in this business long enough to know reconnaissance when I see it. They were mapping security responses, identifying vulnerabilities, which means there's a secondary assault coming. Julian paused. And if you were calculating disarm windows during a robbery, you already know that. You're preparing for it. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Leo lowered the knife. 3 days, she said. I'll give you 3 days to prove the robbery was a test. If you're right, we talk. If you're wrong, I disappear, and if you follow me I won't stop at your throat next time. Julian nodded. 3 days. He left the apartment, closing the reinforced door behind him. As he descended the stairs, he heard multiple locks engaging, deadbolts, chains, electronic systems. Leo Vance was a ghost. But she was a ghost, preparing for war. And Julian Moretti had just made the decision that would either save his empire or ignite the fight that would destroy them both. Chapter 4. Julian sat in his office, reviewing financial reports that didn't add up. It was 2 a.m., 48 hours into his 3-day deadline with Leo Vance, and the numbers were telling a story he didn't want to believe. Marcus entered without knocking, carrying a laptop and wearing the expression of a man delivering a terminal diagnosis. Boss, you need to see this. Julian gestured to the chair across from his desk. Marcus set down the laptop, pulled up a spreadsheet, and pointed to a series of highlighted transactions. Shell companies. 8 of them. All registered in Delaware within the last 6 months. They've been siphoning funds from the family's construction contracts. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger audit alerts. But over 6 months, we're looking at $4.2 million. Who authorized these companies? Julian's voice was dangerously quiet. Marcus pulled up incorporation documents. The signature at the bottom made Julian's blood run cold. Dante Moretti. His brother. His underboss. The man their father had made Julian promise to protect. There's more, Marcus continued, pulling up surveillance photos. Your brother has been meeting with someone. Victor Constantine. Former Spetsnaz. Now runs a private military contractor called the Vultures. Julian's hand tightened around his whiskey glass. The Vultures. The same crew that hit the Onyx Lounge. Yes. Marcus pulled up the robbery footage. But this time, with enhanced analysis. I had our tech guy do a deep dive. The robbers weren't stealing. They were installing. Look here. He zoomed in on the lead gunman's movement near Julian's usual booth. He planted something under the table. Tracker, GPS, and audio. Julian felt ice slide down his spine. He reached under his jacket, pulled out his phone, and ran a detection app. The device pinged immediately. His phone had been cloned. Every call, every text, every location tracked. How long? Julian asked. Since the robbery. They've had access to your communications for 5 days. 5 days. Every conversation with his captains. Every business deal. Every movement. Dante had been listening to everything. Pull up my brother's recent activity, Julian ordered. Everything. Bank records, phone logs, travel history. Marcus worked quickly, compiling data across multiple screens. The pattern emerged, like a crime scene coming into focus. Dante had been traveling to Atlantic City twice a week, meeting with the Calabrese family, the Moretti's biggest rivals. He'd been liquidating personal assets, converting everything to cryptocurrency. And 3 weeks ago, he'd taken out a $10 million life insurance policy on Julian. He's planning a coup, Julian said flatly. The robbery was reconnaissance. He's been mapping my security, my routines, my vulnerabilities. The tracking devices give him real-time intelligence. And the embezzlement. He's been funding his own private army. Marcus's face had gone pale. Boss, if your own brother is moving against you, who can we trust? Half the captains are loyal to him. He's been in the family longer, has deeper relationships. If this goes hot, it's already hot, Julian interrupted. The question is when he makes his move, and how many of our people he's already turned. He stood, pacing to the window overlooking Chicago's skyline. I need a list. Every captain, every soldier, every associate. Mark the ones who've had private meetings with Dante in the last 3 months. Marcus pulled up the data. The list was devastating. 14 of their 28 made men had met privately with Dante. 6 of their 8 captains, even some of Julian's personal security team. Jesus Christ, Marcus whispered. He's been planning this for months, maybe longer. Julian's mind raced through scenarios. Traditional mob protocol would be to call a sit-down, bring evidence to the commission, let the 5 families arbitrate. But that required time and witnesses, and proof, that wouldn't get him killed before he could present it. And if Dante had bought this many people, he'd bought silence too. We can't go to the family, Julian said. The moment we make accusations, Dante accelerates his timeline. We need outside help, someone who can't be bought or intimidated, someone who exists outside our world. Like who? The feds. They'd love to flip us both. Julian thought about the apartment in Greektown, the military-grade locks, the woman who'd moved like death, and calculated threat assessment while pouring wine. I know someone who's very good at surviving people who want them dead. The waitress. Marcus's eyes widened. Boss, we don't know anything about her. She could be. She's exactly what we need. Julian pulled out his phone, the compromised one Dante was listening to. He needed to be careful. Someone with elite training, no loyalty to either side of this fight, and every reason to stay invisible. If I can convince her that helping me keeps her hidden, she'll help. And if she refuses... Julian remembered the knife at his throat, the cold precision in Leo's eyes. Then I'm dead anyway. Dante has the numbers, the timing, and the element of surprise. My only advantage is that he doesn't know I know. And the one person he definitely doesn't know about is a ghost with special operations training who's been hiding in my restaurant for 3 months. Marcus closed the laptop. What do you need me to do? Find out when Dante plans to move. He's been liquidating assets, which means he's close to pulling the trigger. Days, not weeks. Julian grabbed his jacket. And Marcus, from now on we communicate in person only. No phones, no emails, nothing electronic. Assume everything is compromised. Where are you going? To convince a ghost that the best way to stay invisible is to help me survive my brother's coup. Julian headed for the door, then paused. And Marcus, if I don't come back from this meeting, you run. Take your family and disappear. Because if Leo Vance refuses to help, we're all dead. Julian left his office and drove to Greektown, his mind cataloging everything he'd learned. His brother, the man he'd protected, promoted, trusted, had spent months planning his execution. The family was compromised. His security was a sieve. And his only hope was a woman who'd held a knife to his throat and told him to stay away. He parked outside Leo's building, staring up at the 4th floor window, where a single light burned. She was awake, probably watching him right now through whatever surveillance she'd installed. Julian pulled out his phone and sent a text to the number from her employment file, knowing Dante was likely reading it too. The robbery was a test. I have proof. You were right. I need your help. 3 minutes passed. Then his phone buzzed with a reply. Apartment 4B. Come alone. If I see anyone else, you're a dead man. Julian smiled grimly. Leo Vance might be a ghost, but she was a ghost who kept her word. He just hoped she was desperate enough, or angry enough at whoever she was hiding from, to agree to an alliance that would either save his life or get them both killed. He climbed the stairs for the 2nd time, but this time he wasn't hunting information. He was begging for survival. And in Julian Moretti's world, that was a currency more valuable than blood. Chapter 5. The safe house was supposed to be secure. Julian had bought the Lincoln Park townhouse through 3 shell companies, never used it for meetings, never brought anyone except Marcus. But at 3:47 a.m., as Julian showed Leo the evidence of Dante's embezzlement spread across the dining room table, the front window exploded inward. Glass shattered. Smoke canisters tumbled across hardwood floors, hissing chemical fog. Julian's hand went to his weapon, but Leo was already moving. She grabbed his arm and yanked him toward the kitchen with strength that shouldn't have existed in someone her size. Flashbangs next, she said, her voice stripped of all emotion. Then breach. 4-man entry team, maybe 6. Don't look at the light. How do you? The flashbang detonated. Even with his eyes closed, Julian saw white supernovas. His ears rang with high-pitched whine. But Leo kept moving, dragging him through the kitchen doorway, positioning him behind the industrial refrigerator. Stay down, she commanded. Don't move. Don't shoot unless I'm dead. Julian's vision cleared enough to see her. Gone was the waitress who'd served his whiskey with steady hands. This woman moved with predatory efficiency, checking the kitchen with tactical sweeps, cataloging weapons, exits, improvised resources. The front door crashed open. Boots on hardwood. Military cadence. At least 4 hostiles. Maybe more. Julian heard suppressed weapons, Professionals using subsonic rounds to avoid alerting neighbors. Leo was opening cabinets with surgical speed. Grabbed a bottle of 190 proof grain alcohol from the bar cart. Dish soap from under the sink. A mason jar. Steel wool. And impossibly, she was unscrewing the battery from the smoke detector. "What are you doing?" Julian whispered. "Building time." Leo poured alcohol into the jar, added soap in precise ratio, tore apart the smoke detector battery, and twisted steel wool around the exposed terminals. Her hands didn't shake. This wasn't improvisation. This was training. "When I throw this, it'll create a fireball. They'll think it's a Molotov. It's not. It's a distraction. Gives me 3 seconds while they reposition for fire response." 3 seconds to do what? Leo looked at him with eyes that had seen things Julian couldn't imagine. "To kill them before they kill you." She pulled a chef's knife from the block. 8-inch blade, carbon steel. Tested the weight, nodded. Then she moved to the kitchen doorway, listening to the boot patterns in the next room. Counting, calculating. 2 clearing the living room. 1 covering the stairwell. 1 coming to the kitchen. Tactical formation. Ex-military. Not mob muscle. These are professionals. She glanced back at Julian. "Your brother hired people who know what they're doing." The kitchen door started to open. Leo waited until it was halfway, then threw the jar. It arced through the doorway and shattered in the living room. The alcohol ignited with a whoosh, bright orange flame billowing across furniture. "Fire! Fire!" someone shouted. The door stopped opening, Boots retreating to reassess. Leo went through the doorway, low and fast. Julian heard the first man die before he saw it. A wet choking sound. Blade finding throat with surgical precision. She'd killed him in under 2 seconds. Was already moving to the second target. The suppressed weapon. Fired. Muffled pops. But Leo had rolled, using the first body as cover, coming up inside the second mercenary's guard. Julian saw the knife flash, once to the wrist holding the gun, once to the femoral artery. The man dropped. The third mercenary came down the stairwell firing. Leo grabbed the second man's weapon, some kind of tactical SMG, and returned fire with controlled bursts. Professional marksmanship. Center mass. The mercenary collapsed halfway down the stairs. Silence. 3 seconds of violence. 3 dead men. Then Leo was moving again, clearing the living room, weapon up, movements so fluid they looked choreographed. She found the 4th mercenary trying to radio for backup, and put 2 rounds through his chest before he could speak. Julian emerged from the kitchen, weapon drawn but useless. Leo had already won. She stood in the center of his living room, surrounded by 4 bodies, not even breathing hard. Blood spattered her shirt. The knife was still in her left hand. "What are you?" Julian asked, his voice barely audible over the ringing in his ears. Leo looked at him with eyes that were older than her 24 years. "Someone who survived worse than your brother." She dropped the knife, safe to the stolen weapon. "Ex-military, special operations. My unit was sent on a classified mission in 2019. We discovered something we weren't supposed to see. Evidence of war crimes by our own government. They ordered an airstrike on our position. 12 operators. I was the only survivor. They killed their own people? They covered up a massacre by creating another one." Leo moved to the window, checked the street. "I've been legally dead for 5 years. Living as a ghost. Your brother hiring ex-Blackwater mercenaries was bad luck for him. I recognize their tactics. I know how they think. Because you were one of them, I was better than them." Leo turned back to Julian. "Which is why I'm still alive and they're not. Your safe house is compromised. We need to move, now." Julian stared at the bodies, at the improvised explosive that had bought 3 seconds, at the woman who'd transformed from waitress to operator with the flip of a switch. "How did they find us?" "Inside man. Someone in your organization told your brother about this location." Leo was already wiping down surfaces, eliminating fingerprints with professional efficiency. "Which means anywhere connected to your family is compromised. Hotels, businesses, associates, all burned. Then where do we go?" Leo met his eyes. "My place. It's off-grid. No paper trail connecting it to you. And it's fortified for exactly this scenario." She grabbed his arm. "But Julian, you need to understand what you're walking into. I've been preparing for the government to find me for 5 years. That apartment isn't a home. It's a kill box. If your brother sends more people, a lot of bodies are gonna stack up." Julian looked at the 4 mercenaries bleeding out on his hardwood floors. "I think I can live with that." "Can you?" Leo's grip tightened. "Because the next team will be bigger, better equipped, and they'll know what they're up against now. This stops being a family dispute and starts being a war." "Then let's go to war," Julian said. "Because my brother just tried to kill me, and I'm tired of playing defense." Leo smiled. Grim, humorless. "Now you're talking my language." She released him. Move toward the door, grab what you need. We leave in 90 seconds. And Julian, from now on you do exactly what I say. I kept you alive tonight. I can do it again, but only if you trust me completely. Julian looked at the woman who'd just killed 4 trained mercenaries with a kitchen knife and stolen weapon. The ghost who'd been hiding in his restaurant. The operator who'd calculated disarm windows while pouring wine. I trust you, he said. And meant it. Chapter 6. Leo's apartment looked different at 4 in the morning, with bodies left behind and adrenaline still burning through Julian's system. She moved through the space with mechanical efficiency, triple locking the door, checking motion sensors, pulling blackout curtains. Then she opened a laptop that definitely hadn't been visible during Julian's first visit. Sit, she said, gesturing to the tactical chair positioned with sightlines to both door and window. What I'm about to show you is the reason I'm still alive. It's also the reason I can never stop being dead. Julian sat. Leo typed a complex password sequence, then placed her thumb on a biometric scanner. The screen came to life with folders labeled in military nomenclature: Operation Sandstorm, Classified, Eyes Only. In 2019, I was a combat medic with the 75th Ranger Regiment, Leo began, her voice flat, reciting facts instead of living them. We were attached to a Special Activities Division task force in Kabul. 12 operators, elite personnel, conducting classified counterterrorism operations. Our commanding officer was Colonel Marcus Webb. Good soldier, better liar. She opened a folder. Drone footage appeared, grainy infrared, showing a compound in Afghanistan. This was our target. Intelligence said it was a Taliban weapons cache. High-value target. Quick in-and-out extraction. Leo advanced the footage. We breached at 0300 hours. Found the weapons. But we also found something else. The next image made Julian's stomach turn. Bodies. Dozens of them. Civilians. Women and children. Executed. Mass grave. Being actively filled. This wasn't a Taliban compound, Leo said. It was a CIA black site. They'd been interrogating prisoners. Enhanced interrogation, they called it. Torture. When subjects stopped being useful, they were executed and buried. We stumbled into an active war crime, being conducted by our own government. Julian stared at the screen. Your command ordered you to forget what we saw. Delete the footage. Maintain operational security. Leo's jaw tightened. 3 of our operators refused. Said they'd report it through proper channels. Colonel Webb radioed for extraction. What we got was a Reaper drone with Hellfire missiles. She opened another file. Radio transcripts. Julian read the timestamps, minutes after the discovery. Webb's voice requesting immediate airstrike on their own coordinates. Authorization granted. Target. Eliminate witnesses. They bombed you, Julian breathed. Your own command bombed your position. 12 operators, Leo confirmed. I survived because I'd separated from the unit to treat a wounded Afghan translator 200 meters away. I heard the missiles, saw the compound disappear in fire, ran back and found. She stopped, swallowed. Parts. That's all that was left. Parts. Julian saw her hand shake, the first break in her composure since he'd met her. Leo. I took the evidence. She cut him off, voice hardening again. Webb's tablet survived. Military-grade encryption, but I had his access codes. I downloaded everything. Footage, orders, authorization chains, names. 37 people from Pentagon to Langley, who knew about the black site. Who ordered the airstrike? Who covered it up? And then you disappeared. I was legally declared KIA, along with my unit. Closed casket funeral. My mother got a folded flag, and a lie about heroic sacrifice. Leo's eyes were distant. I had 3 choices. Turn myself in and get disappeared permanently, run and spend my life hiding, or create leverage. She opened another folder. Complex code. Automated systems. Dead man's switch. I check in every 72 hours, using rotating VPN and encrypted channels. If I miss a check-in, or if certain biometric indicators show I'm dead or captured, these files auto-upload to WikiLeaks, the New York Times, Washington Post, and every major news organization in the world. 37 government officials face treason charges. The CIA's black site program gets exposed. Careers end. Maybe prosecutions. That's why they haven't killed you, Julian realized. You're too dangerous to eliminate. Détente, Leo confirmed. They don't hunt me, because hunting me triggers exposure. I don't expose them because staying dead keeps me safe. Mutual assured destruction. She closed the laptop, but it's not perfect. There are people in the intelligence community who'd risk exposure to eliminate the loose end. Rogue elements. True believers who think national security trumps war crimes. Like the mercenaries your brother hired. Exactly. Leo stood, pacing. The vultures aren't just ex-Blackwater. Some of them are former CIA paramilitaries, SAD operators. The kind of people who know about Operation Sandstorm because they ran operations just like it. When your brother hired them to kill you, he accidentally hired people who'd love to kill me as a bonus. Julian processed this. So helping me survive your brother puts you at risk? Yes. Then why are you helping? Leo was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Julian had ever heard it. Because you looked at me and saw a person. Not a waitress, not furniture, not a weapon or a liability. You saw someone dangerous, and instead of trying to control or eliminate me, you asked for an alliance. She met his eyes. In 5 years, you're the first person who's treated me like I'm human. Like I'm more than my tactical value. Julian stood slowly. You are more than your tactical value, Leo. He struggled for words. You're the most remarkable person I've ever met. And not because you can kill 4 men with a kitchen knife. Because you survived betrayal and massacre and 5 years of isolation, and you're still capable of helping someone. Don't romanticize it, Leo said sharply. I helped you because I need you alive. You are my best chance at eliminating the mercenaries before they identify me. This is tactical, Julian. Not altruistic, is it? Julian stepped closer. Because you could have let me die at the safe house. Could have watched your brother's people kill me and then disappeared before they found you. But you didn't. You saved me. And I don't think it was just tactical. Leo's composure cracked for a fraction of a second, something vulnerable flashing across her face before the operator's mask returned. We need to focus. Your brother will send another team. Bigger, better equipped. We have maybe 12 hours before the next strike. Then we use those 12 hours to plan. Julian moved to the tactical map Leo had mounted on her wall. Every exit from Chicago, every potential safe house, every resource marked with military precision. You know how they'll attack. I know my brother's resources. Together we can win this. Win what? Leo asked. Your brother has money, soldiers and mercenaries who want us both dead. We're 2 people against an army. 2 people who refuse to die quietly. Julian turned to face her. I've built an empire by outthinking people who thought I was weak. You survived a government cover-up by being smarter than everyone hunting you. Your brother made one mistake. Leo. He thinks overwhelming force wins. But we know better. Intelligence wins. Strategy wins. And we're smarter than he is. Leo studied him. This mafia underboss who'd walked into her kill box asking for help. Who'd just learned she was legally dead and holding the government hostage. Who should be terrified but instead was planning counterattacks. Okay, she said finally. We fight. But Julian, if this goes sideways, if I miss my check-in, the files go public. Your family, your organization, everything connected to you gets exposed, alongside government war crimes. The fallout will be nuclear. Then we don't let it go sideways. Julian offered his hand. Partners? Leo looked at his hand for a long moment. Trust didn't come easy to someone who'd been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect her. But she took it. Partners. Until your brother is dead, or we are. Let's make sure it's him. Julian squeezed her hand. Show me how to fight like a ghost. And in that moment, standing in a fortified apartment with blood on their clothes and government secrets between them, 2 people who'd spent their lives being dangerous to others, became dangerous together. The alliance was formed. The war was coming. And somewhere in Chicago, Dante Moretti had no idea he'd just united the 2 people most capable of destroying everything he'd built. Chapter 7. Marcus arrived at Leo's apartment at dawn, with intelligence that made Julian's blood run cold. Family gathering. Your Uncle Giuseppe is hosting Sunday dinner at your estate. Mandatory attendance for all made men and their families. Dante personally confirmed he'll be there. When? Julian asked. 48 hours, Sunday at 6 p.m. Marcus looked at Leo. Then back to Julian. Boss, this is the perfect hit. Everyone in one location. Civilians present, so we can't go in heavy, traditional family events so security will be relaxed. If Dante moves during dinner, we'll all be dead before dessert, Leo finished. She was studying a tablet displaying the Moretti estate's blueprints. Somehow she'd acquired architectural plans that weren't supposed to exist outside the family's private files. How many entrances? 4 primary, 6 secondary including service access. Julian said. The estate has security, but it's designed to keep people out, not handle an internal assault during a gathering. Then we redesign it. Leo started marking the blueprints. 48 hours. We fortify, without making it obvious. Your brother can't know we're expecting him. She looked at Marcus. I need a list. Every soldier, every captain, every associate, who'll be at that dinner. And I need to know who's loyal to Julian versus who's been compromised. Marcus pulled up a file. The list was devastating. Of the 32 made men expected at dinner, At least 14 were suspected of being loyal to Dante. 6 captains. Multiple security personnel. We're outnumbered in our own house, Julian said quietly. Numbers don't matter if we control the environment. Leo was already planning. The loyal soldiers, we position them strategically. Near exits, covering sightlines, close to civilians. The compromised ones, we isolate. Put them in positions where they can't coordinate or access weapons easily. And the mercenaries? They'll hit from outside. Breach and clear while your brother neutralizes you from inside. Classic pincer movement. Leo pulled up satellite imagery of the estate grounds. We need early warning systems, kill zones, fallback positions. And we need to identify your brother's insertion point for the mercenaries. For the next 6 hours, they planned. Leo moved through the estate blueprints with the precision of someone who'd studied tactical assault doctrine at the highest levels. She identified weak points in the perimeter, optimal firing positions, choke points that could be exploited. She was designing a battlefield. Marcus watched with growing respect. You've done this before. Defended against superior numbers. Kabul 2019, Leo said without looking up. Held a firebase for 6 hours against Taliban assault. 40 attackers, 8 defenders. We won because we controlled the terrain. She met his eyes. Your brother has mercenaries and numbers. We have home field advantage and preparation time. If we use both correctly, we survive. By nightfall, they'd transformed the Moretti estate into a fortress disguised as a family home. Motion sensors installed in garden perimeter, masked as landscape lighting. Defensive positions identified and supplied. Weapons caches hidden in servants' quarters. Panic rooms reinforced. Communications equipment staged. Leo had even rigged the wine cellar with improvised explosives. Contingency, she called it. Julian's loyal soldiers were briefed individually, given positions and fallback protocols. Marcus would coordinate from the security office. The compromised soldiers would be positioned in the main dining room, visible, monitored, unable to act without being immediately neutralized. At midnight, Leo and Julian stood on the estate's terrace, overlooking the grounds. The house was quiet. Tomorrow, family would start arriving. In 48 hours, it would become a war zone. Why are you doing this? Julian asked quietly. You could disappear, leave Chicago, let my family destroy itself. But you're staying, risking exposure, helping me prepare for a fight that isn't yours. Leo was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. Because you looked at me like I was human, not a weapon, not a liability, not furniture, or a ghost, or a tactical asset. She turned to face him. For 5 years, I've been invisible by choice, dead by necessity. And then you walked into my apartment, and saw me. Actually saw me. Not what I could do for you, but who I was. Leo. I've survived by being alone, she continued. By trusting no one. By believing that connections were vulnerabilities, and caring about people got you killed. And then you offered me an alliance. Not because you needed my skills, but because you thought I deserved to be treated like a partner. An equal. Julian stepped closer. You are an equal. You're the most capable person I've ever met. And I don't just mean tactically. You survived betrayal that would have broken anyone else. You've spent 5 years alone, and you're still capable of helping someone. That's not weakness, Leo. That's strength I can't even comprehend. It doesn't feel like strength, Leo admitted. It feels like I'm breaking my own rules, getting involved, caring whether you live or die. And I do care, Julian. Which terrifies me more than any assault your brother could plan. Julian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with surprising gentleness for hands that had broken bones and signed death warrants. I'm terrified too, not of dying tomorrow. Of losing the chance to know who you are, when you're not in survival mode. When you're not a ghost, or an operator. Just Leo. I don't know who that person is anymore. Then let's find out. After we survive this. Julian's thumb traced the scar on her cheekbone, some old injury from a life she'd left behind. Will you give me that chance? To know the woman behind the tactical genius and the kitchen knife kills? Leo's breath hitched. For 5 years, she'd been touch-starved, isolated, convinced that being seen meant being dead. But Julian was seeing her, all of her. The darkness and the damage, and he wasn't running. He was asking to stay. Yes, she whispered. If we survive Sunday, I'll let you know me. Julian leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to retreat. But Leo closed the distance, kissing him with the desperate intensity of someone who'd forgotten what human connection felt like. It wasn't gentle or romantic. It was survival and hope and fear all tangled together. 2 people who'd spent their lives being weapons, finally allowing themselves to be human. When they pulled apart, Leo's composure was shattered, tears tracking down her face. I haven't cried since Kabul, she said, almost surprised. I thought I'd forgotten how. Julian pulled her closer, and she let him. This woman who'd killed 4 men with a kitchen knife, who held government secrets that could topple administrations, who'd survived betrayal and massacre. She let herself be held. Tomorrow brings war, Julian said against her hair. But tonight, we're just two people who refuse to die alone. Leo nodded, not trusting her voice. They stood on the terrace, as Chicago's lights glittered below, holding each other like lifelines, knowing that in 48 hours everything would change. The siege was coming, but for one night, they had this connection, hope, and the fragile promise that maybe, just maybe, survival was worth fighting for. Not just existing, actually living. Together. Chapter 8. The assault came at 7:14 p.m., 13 minutes after Uncle Giuseppe proposed a toast to family unity. The lights died first, not a flicker, but instant blackness, as someone cut the main power and disabled the backup generators simultaneously. Inside job. Just like Leo predicted. Then the windows exploded. Flashbangs detonated in the main dining room, where Dante had positioned the compromised soldiers. Smoke grenades followed, filling the house with choking fog. Julian heard screaming, his Aunt Maria, his cousin's children, civilians, caught in a war zone. He reached for his weapon, but Leo was already moving, grabbing his arm with iron grip. Panic room. Now. Her voice cut through the chaos with command authority. They're breaching from 3 points: North Garden, service entrance, main gate. Professional coordination. We have maybe 90 seconds. They ran through smoke-filled hallways, Leo navigating from memory, despite zero visibility. Behind them, suppressed weapons coughed. Quiet deaths, as Dante's inside men were systematically eliminated by mercenaries who didn't care about loyalty, only completion of contract. Julian heard Marcus over his radio. East Wing compromised. They're inside. Boss, where? The transmission cut off in static and gunfire. They reached the reinforced door to the panic room. Leo shoved Julian through, but as she followed, muzzle flash lit up the hallway. She tackled Julian, and he felt the impact shudder through her body. She'd taken a round meant for him. "I'm fine," she grunted. But Julian saw blood spreading across her shoulder as she slammed the panic room door. The hydraulic locks engaged with satisfying thickness. Reinforced steel, biometric access only, rated to withstand sustained assault for 8 minutes, Leo said, reading his thoughts. She was already at the control panel, fingers flying over the interface. "Your brother has the override codes. I saw them in the intelligence," Marcus pulled. "Once they access the security office, they'll breach this room in 8 minutes, maybe less." Julian stared at the blood soaking her shirt. "You're shot. Grazed. Through and through. Missed the bone." She pulled off her jacket, revealing the entry and exit wounds. "You, however, are hit worse." Julian looked down. He hadn't felt it in the adrenaline surge, but now he saw. His shoulder was bleeding, suit jacket shredded, where a round had punched through. The pain arrived like delayed freight train, white hot, and nauseating. "Sit." Leo pushed him into the panic room's single chair. The room was small, 12 by 12, designed as last resort sanctuary. Emergency supplies, medical kit, communications equipment, and, Julian now noticed, a hidden panel Leo had installed without telling him. She opened the medical kit, with efficient movements, despite her own wound. "Take off your shirt. I need to see the damage." Julian struggled out of his jacket and shirt. The wound was uglier than he'd hoped. Entry just below the collarbone. Exit through the back of his shoulder. Blood pulsed with each heartbeat. Subclavian artery intact, or you'd already be dead, Leo assessed clinically. She pulled out supplies, gauze, antiseptic, surgical thread. "But you're losing blood fast. I need to cauterize to stop the bleeding, then stitch the exit wound. It's going to hurt." "Do it." Leo grabbed the bottle of whiskey from the emergency supplies, 20-year Macallan, meant for celebrating survival, not field surgery. She poured it directly into Julian's wound. He screamed, vision whiting out as alcohol burned through torn flesh. "Breathe," Leo commanded. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Control the pain, don't let it control you." Julian forced his breathing to steady, watching through tears as Leo threaded surgical needle with hands that didn't shake. She'd done this before, not in a hospital or a training exercise, in combat, under fire. Keeping people alive when death was the default outcome. She worked with brutal efficiency, stitching the exit wound with precise sutures. Then she grabbed his belt, looped it around his shoulder, and created a tourniquet to restrict blood flow. "This will buy us time. But Julian, you need a hospital, real surgery. You've lost at least a pint already." "After we survive the next 8 minutes." Julian's voice was hoarse. "What's our play?" Leo checked her watch. 6 minutes now. They'll breach with shaped charges, blow the door, storm with overwhelming force. Expect at least 4 operators, possibly 6. Blackwater, which means they know room-clearing protocols. We're trapped. No, we're prepared. Leo moved to the hidden panel she'd installed, entering a code. It swung open, revealing equipment that definitely hadn't come from any sporting goods store. Tactical vest with ceramic plates, suppressed MP7, night vision goggles, 3 fragmentation grenades, and what looked like a claymore mine. Julian stared. When did you? The day after we started fortifying. I told you this room needed to be more than a sanctuary. It needed to be a kill zone. Leo stripped off her blood-stained shirt without hesitation, revealing sports bra, and more scars than any 24-year-old should carry. She pulled on the tactical vest, checked the MP7's chamber, loaded a round. I've defended against room breaches before. The attackers have every advantage: numbers, equipment, surprise. But we have one thing they don't. What's that? Leo looked at him with eyes that had gone cold and tactical. The operator fully emerged. I know exactly how they'll breach, and I've spent 48 hours preparing for this specific scenario. She handed Julian a suppressed Glock. When the door blows, they'll throw flashbangs. Close your eyes, open your mouth, to equalize pressure. The first man through will be point, most experienced, heaviest armor. Don't engage him. Let him enter. The second and third will follow fast, clearing corners. That's when I move. Leo, you're wounded. I've performed surgery with worse injuries. She pulled on the night vision goggles, flipped them up. 5 minutes. They're accessing the security office now. I can hear the breach charges being set. She positioned herself beside the door, completely calm, despite blood still seeping from her shoulder wound. Julian, what you're about to see, this is why I was hiding. This is what the government trained me to be. A soldier. No, Leo's smile was grim. Soldiers follow orders. I'm what happens when a soldier sees too much, survives what should have killed her, and decides that following orders isn't worth dying for. She checked her weapon one final time. I'm the thing Special Forces operators have nightmares about. Someone with all their training, none of their rules, and absolutely nothing left to lose. You have something to lose now, Julian said quietly. You have me. Leo looked at him. Really looked at him. Seeing past the blood and pain to the man who'd offered alliance when she had nothing, who'd seen her darkness and chosen to stay. Then I guess I better make sure we both survive. The panel beside the door flashed red. Override sequence initiated. 4 minutes. Leo flipped down the night vision. When the lights go out, they go out for them too. But I can see in the dark. And Julian, stay down. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, stay behind that desk until I tell you it's clear. 3 minutes. Leo's breathing slowed, heart rate dropping into combat rhythm. Julian watched her transform completely. The waitress, the woman who'd kissed him on the terrace, the ghost who'd shown him government secrets, all of it disappearing into the operator. This was who she'd been in Kabul. This was who she'd buried for 5 years. 2 minutes. Leo, Julian said. She looked back. Thank you. For saving me. For staying. For being human even though it terrifies you. Something flickered in her expression. Vulnerability breaking through tactical mask. Thank you for making me want to stay alive. For the first time in 5 years, I have a reason to fight that isn't just survival. 1 minute. The breach charges detonated. Chapter 9. The door disintegrated in a shaped explosion that turned reinforced steel into shrapnel. Flash bangs tumbled through the smoking gap. 3 of them. Military-grade stun grenades designed to overwhelm senses and destroy resistance. Leo had already closed her eyes and opened her mouth. The detonations were still deafening, still disorienting, but she'd trained for this, had lived through this. In Kabul, in a dozen firefights the government pretended never happened. The first mercenary came through fast and low, exactly as Leo predicted. Body armor, ballistic helmet, IR laser sight sweeping the darkness. Professional. Experienced. Dead man walking. Leo let him enter. Let him clear his corner. Let him signal the all clear to the team behind him. Then the second and third operators pushed through. Standard diamond formation, covering angles, weapons up. That's when Leo killed the lights, not just the panic room, the entire estate. Her override code, installed during fortification, killed every electrical system simultaneously. The mercenaries' night vision flared white as their equipment tried to compensate for sudden total darkness. For 3 seconds, they were blind. Leo had already switched to passive night vision. No IR signature, no electronic trace. She could see them perfectly. They couldn't see her at all. She moved. The second operator died first, suppressed round through the gap in his body armor where neck met shoulder. He dropped without sound. The third spun toward the movement, but Leo was already inside his guard. MP7 pressed against his femoral artery. She fired. He collapsed, bleeding out in seconds. The first operator, the experienced one, had better instincts. He'd heard his team die and was already spinning, weapon tracking, finger on trigger. But Leo had counted his magazine from the breech. 30 rounds. He'd fired 4 clearing the hallway. She knew exactly when he'd need to reload. She waited for it. The split second, when he'd have to drop the magazine and slam in a fresh one. That's when she engaged, low and fast, sweeping his legs, following him down, knife appearing from her vest like magic. The blade found the gap in his helmet, the vulnerable spot at the base of the skull. One thrust, spinal cord severed. He died before his fresh magazine hit the floor. 3 bodies, 11 seconds. But the 4th mercenary hadn't entered. He was smarter, more cautious, standing just outside the breach point, using his dead teammates as information. Leo could hear him breathing, controlled, professional. This wasn't his first firefight. Vance. The voice cut through the darkness, familiar in a way that made Leo's blood run cold. I know it's you. I know that signature. The femoral artery shot, the spinal strike. That's how you were trained. Leo's hands tightened on her weapon. She knew that voice, Sergeant Marcus Cole, her former unit commander. The man who'd taught her everything about close-quarters combat. The man who'd survived Kabul, just like she had. You're supposed to be dead, Cole continued. He wasn't entering, too smart for that. He was talking, keeping her attention divided, probably signaling for backup. Whole unit KIA. I saw the casualty reports. So are you, Leo said quietly, shifting position, using the bodies as cover. They declared us all dead, Marcus. So why are you working for a Chicago mobster? Because dead men don't get pensions, don't get medals, don't get anything, except a folder marked classified and forgotten. Cole's voice hardened. I cut a deal, Vance. Immunity, new identity, and a very lucrative contract position, with a private military contractor. All I had to do was stay quiet about Sandstorm. You sold out. I survived. Just like you did. Movement at the doorway. Cole was repositioning, trying for an angle. But you made a mistake, Vance. You took the evidence. The files. That makes you a loose end. And I've been waiting 5 years for you to surface, so I could tie you off. Leo's mind raced. Cole knew her tactics, her training, her weaknesses. He'd been her instructor. But he didn't know what 5 years of survival had taught her. That rules were suggestions, and desperation made you creative. Julian, Leo said quietly, not taking her eyes off the breach point. The claymore I installed. Under the desk. Activation switch is red button. Julian's voice came back, strained with pain and adrenaline. The one pointed at the door? Yes. When I give the signal, press it. Don't hesitate. Leo, you're between the mine and... I know. She took a breath. Marcus, you want to talk about Sandstorm? Let's talk. Face to face. You come in. We negotiate. Maybe we both walk away. Silence. Cole was calculating, weighing options. Then, you don't negotiate, Vance. That's not your style. 5 years changes people, not us. We were trained too well. Cole's laugh was bitter. But fine. I'm coming in. Weapons down. Just 2 survivors, having a conversation about the government that tried to kill us both. Leo heard him enter. Careful steps, weapon lowered but ready. She could see him through her night vision. Middle-aged now. Harder than she remembered. War did that. Betrayal did that. There you are, Cole said, spotting her thermal signature. The ghost of Kabul. You know how many people I've had to kill to keep you a secret? Every analyst who flagged your fingerprints. Every intelligence officer who got too curious. You're expensive, Vance. Then let me make it cheaper. Kill me. The files go public. You know I have a dead man switch. Had. Cole smiled. We've been tracking your check-ins for 6 months. Got the location of your server 2 weeks ago. Raided it this morning. Your insurance policy is gone. Leo's blood went cold. The files, her only leverage, gone. So here's how this ends, Cole continued, weapon coming back up. I kill you. Kill your mobster boyfriend. Collect my payment. And go back to being dead. The government gets its loose end tied off. Dante Moretti gets his coup. Everybody wins. Except me. Except you. Cole's finger moved to the trigger. Nothing personal, Vance. Just business. Now, Leo shouted. Julian pressed the button. The Claymore mine detonated with focused fury. 700 steel balls propelled by C4 explosive in a 60-degree arc. But Leo had already moved, rolling hard right behind the heavy desk as the blast wave passed over her. Cole, standing in the optimal kill zone, took the full force. His body armor might as well have been paper. When the ringing in her ears subsided, Leo stood slowly. Cole's body, what was left of it, lay in the doorway. The man who'd trained her, who'd survived Kabul, who'd sold out and taken government money to stay quiet about war crimes. Dead because he'd underestimated how much 5 years of survival had taught her about fighting dirty. Status? Julian's voice was hoarse. 4 down. But there'll be more. Cole wasn't working alone. Leo retrieved her MP7, checked her ammunition. 7 rounds left in the current magazine, 2 spare mags in her vest. Not enough if they were facing a full tactical team. She pulled Cole's radio from his vest. It was still transmitting. She could hear voices. Alpha lead is down. Repeat, Alpha lead down. Breacher team. Converge on panic room. Victor team. Secure the civilians. Dante, you're cleared to move on primary target. Leo's eyes narrowed. They were coordinating a 2-pronged assault, mercenaries clearing resistance, while Dante personally moved to kill Julian. Classic decapitation strike. She keyed the radio, using Cole's call sign. Alpha lead to all teams. Hostile eliminated. Panic room secured. Converging on primary. She changed to Marcus's frequency. Marcus, you alive? Static then. Barely. East wing. 3 hostiles down, but I'm pinned. They've got the security office. I'm coming. Hold position. Leo looked at Julian. Can you walk? I can fight. Julian stood, wincing, but steady. The tourniquet and adrenaline were keeping him functional. But Leo could see he was fading. He needed a hospital. Soon. Stay behind me. We're clearing this mansion, room by room, until we find your brother. Leo checked the hallway. 2 more mercenaries approaching from the north corridor, weapons up, moving in tactical bounds. She flipped on her IR laser, acquired targets, and fired controlled pairs. Both dropped before they could return fire. For the next 20 minutes, Leo Vance became something Julian had only seen glimpses of. The fully operational Special Forces medic who'd survived government betrayal. She moved through the Moretti estate, like death incarnate, systematically eliminating mercenaries with cold precision. In the garden, she found a sniper position, used a fallen mercenary's rifle to take out 3 more operators providing overwatch. In the wine cellar, she triggered the improvised explosives she'd rigged, collapsing a corridor and cutting off reinforcements. In the security office, she linked up with Marcus and used a camera system to coordinate the few loyal soldiers still fighting. Julian followed, weapon drawn but mostly unnecessary. He watched her work with a mixture of terror and awe. This wasn't just training. This was art. Lethal, brutal, but undeniably art. Every movement efficient. Every shot precisely aimed. Every decision made with tactical clarity that came from years of combat experience. You're not human, Julian said after she cleared the 5th room. I'm very human. Leo reloaded, not looking at him. That's the problem. Machines don't hesitate, don't feel guilty, don't carry 12 dead friends from Kabul everywhere they go. I'm human. I'm just very, very good at staying alive when people try to kill me. They reached the main dining room. The siege had been going for 41 minutes. 15 mercenaries, down by Leo's count. But the civilians, Julian's family, were still barricaded inside, and Dante was somewhere in the house, hunting for Julian. He'll be in your study, Leo said, symbolic. Kill you where you do business, where you run the family. It's personal for him, not just strategic. They moved toward the study, Leo leading, Julian covering their 6. The door was closed. Leo placed her hand on it, feeling for vibration, listening for movement. Then she stepped back and kicked it open, weapon up, ready to engage. The study was empty. Almost empty. Uncle Giuseppe sat tied to Julian's desk chair, beaten bloody, a bomb vest strapped to his chest. Digital timer, 4:47, 4:46, 4:45. And Dante's voice came from the shadows. Hello, brother. I've been waiting. If you enjoyed this story, tap the like button. It really helps more people find the channel. For more powerful stories about hidden identities, shocking twists, and moments that change everything, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a comment, and tell us what you think happened after the street froze. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.